Hello and welcome again to the Skillwork Forum. I'm Tim, as always, joined my partner here, Brett, and we gather on these podcasts, talk about emerging trends, topics, just issues surrounding the skilled trades. And today we thought we would just chat a little bit about our recent event that I attended and we and a couple of our guys went to. Brett, one of our partners we work with pretty closely are Rockwell and some of their distributors and integrators around the country.
Yep.
We've gotten a pretty good relationship developed with those guys. And last year and this year, we went to their annual automation fair where they do a lot of training, but there's also kind of the latest and greatest innovation and technology that gets rolled out. So I got a chance to listen to a lot of speakers, engage a lot of leaders, and really get a pulse on where we're going with respect to technology. And we thought today we would just chat a little bit about some of the things I took away and a lot of the topics we talk about here routinely. But I think that the biggest takeaway is that and things are just continuing to exponentially go at a faster pace in the technology. It's amazing the pace. So we're going to talk about it, but the most talked about topic and ever breakout and ever conversation almost uniformly was around the skilled trades and the need for skilled trades. And it just continues to be a topic of conversation across the board. Every keynote I listened to said, well, the problem we're trying to solve is this, skilled trades. So the lack of talent is driving a lot of the innovation and technical changes, and companies like Rockwell and others are trying to use this to help mitigate the shortage. And as a matter of fact, one of the comments made by Rockwell there were referenced a couple of times today, Brett, with their 2023 State of Smart Manufacturing Report, which is really a great document. They say in there, technology cannot drive success without people and vice versa. So they acknowledge that it is not going to solve the gap or close the gap completely. There's going to be way too many, like to the tune of 4.6 million needed skilled tradespeople. And we're not going to have enough to be able to fill that gap. So yeah, it continues to be front and center.
No, it's like you said, it's on everybody's radar. I think it's getting really interesting. I was not too long ago, last month, was at the Manufacturers Institute Workforce Summit. And so the same deal, you're looking broader. Rockwell is obviously very automated, focused type of thing. But I mean, here's a whole forum. All they're talking about is how to solve this skills gap. You said, technology, is a piece of it, but in some respects, it's creating some other challenges as well because somebody's got to run the technology. And so, it's kind of a similar path that we've been seeing, but it's interesting because you're starting to see with more companies. So, upskilling as you bring in this technology, I think most people believe that some of these positions are going to get changed. Nobody likes to use the word eliminated. So it's going to require, you to upskill. Like we say, it's no longer just a good thing to say. It's going to be required. You're going to have to upskill those individuals. You can't afford to lose those people. You still have lots of people. So, there's a growing sense, I think, that manufacturers who can attract, retain, and upskill the right team will outperform their competitors. I was in one of our clients, a large poultry manufacturer. They've created a team inside of that organization with that exact. How can they attract? How can they retain? How can they upskill? We're talking to them, obviously, with our model. We're saying you need a fourth leg of the stool. You also need somebody who can help you augment this talent,
Right.
type of thing. But that is just a consistent, message. And I think too, as consistent is the idea that this automation, it's not going to eliminate opportunity. It's actually going to, expand the opportunity, especially in the skilled trade. You're basically taking those labor positions and upskilling those individuals.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, the upskilling part. And they're using technology, necessity is a motherhood of invention. The necessity is they don't have the skilled labor that they need now, and it's not going to get any better. There's going to be 4.6 million needed by the end of this decade. They only anticipate half of those being available. So the idea that upskilling is going to be part and parcel of this, and as a matter of fact, automation, robotics. We'll get into a little bit of generated AI. Some of those things are going to be more and more necessary. So this is going to be a tremendous. We talked about in other podcasts, the golden age of skilled trades. I mean, I really believe we're just at the precipice of.
Yeah, no, I mean, the challenge is every sector is competing for that talent. So to your point, if you're in there somewhere, you're going to have a lot of opportunities. Still 90% of the manufacturing respondents in that smart manufacturing report that you indicated still say that skilled workforce remains the top concern and is the number one reason why manufacturers believe they can't outpace the competition in 2023. It's little by little, I think people are starting to, we're already seeing what we talked about a minute ago, attract, retain, and upskill. Companies are already recognized they have to start to think about this differently. I read an article the other day that said basically the only way we're going to solve this skilled trade shortage is a holistic change to the way we attract talent and bring it into it. Another thing in that report said 46% of manufacturers say that the lack of skilled workforce to outpace the competition over the next 12 months, that number grew by 10% year over year. So I think the point of that, Tim, we talk about this all the time. So, but we've been saying this is a growing problem. You can debate whether we're 2 million short or we're 4 million, whatever the number is that we're short. But the thing that I don't think there's any debate on is that the problem is growing. And this report indicated they're projecting now we're going to go from 2 million short in the skilled trades, the technical skills, to 3 million, in the next 5 years. So, and I think it's a combination. We have a simple math problem in that there's not enough people, looking for jobs to fill the jobs. But then you add on top of that, in this space, we also have a talent shortage. Even if you can find people, perhaps this particular facility is in a spot where they're able to attract, or another plant laid some people off or whatever, but do they have the skills that you need?
Yeah.
It's a people and a talent.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's so interesting to me that this is like you mentioned, what's next? Innovation, technology, amazing sort of things we saw there, new things that are, that 5 years ago weren't even being thought about. But the number one topic continued to be labor.
Yeah.
Skilled trades, professionals that can do this, because they recognize automation technology will help close some of the gap. But it's this combination, we'll talk about a little bit more, between robotics and automation and technology and humans. The idea that humans are going to be replaced. I know that's a fear that some have if we get into talking about AI. But what I heard there, and these are people who live in the technology world, they just aren't buying that. They just do not see it on the technology horizon where it's going to be at a place where it can be eliminated. Certain, what they consider low value jobs and work that's being done now are going to be automated. But the purpose of that is not to eliminate those people, but to give them opportunity to do other jobs. So I think there shouldn't be fear. People should see this as an amazing opportunity. And you're in a great position if you're one of those skilled tradespeople. If you have a desire and an aptitude to get better, this is an amazing time for you to look for opportunities to leverage your skill and take what you know and your aptitude and add to it. And that's something we're very bullish on here at Skillwork. We talked about that big takeaway was the skilled trades thing. The other topic, or the next one we're talking about, is just the pace of innovation. And we've talked about it here. I mean, it's already exponential, but I saw there was one of the keynote speakers. He's a CEO of one of the big tech publications. It'll come to me, but it was a very compelling discussion because he talked about this idea of Moore's Law, which many people in technology know about. It's been around since the late 60s, the idea that every 2 years, the ability of a microchip computing technology is going to double every 2 years. And that led us on this exponential growth curve. Well, he showed, that Moore's Law curve, and he said, today it's like this.
Yep.
It's a vertical line, straight up. The pace is going amazingly rapid. Blake Moret, who's the CEO of Rockwell, I heard him speak, and he said, we've experienced 20 years of evolution in 2 years' time. And we're already going at such a fast pace, but think about that. In the last 2 years, COVID actually accelerated a lot of this that we've talked about. And it's amazing to see some of the innovative changes and what's coming down the line. We got a couple of those concepts to talk about here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, we've been getting out a bit and trying to listen and learn. You and I attended the Connected Manufacturing Forum a few months ago, and there was a lot of conversation about this idea of a digital twin. And so when we talk about the evolution of technology and how fast it's happening, the idea, this future state of a digital product lifecycle model, it's there now, where companies, I don't remember who it was at the Connected Manufacturing, talked about, which is the same people that are involved in this type of stuff, were how many millions of square feet that they had basically created a digital twin for, if you remember that conversation. But basically, you now have the ability, you've watched this podcast before, my background was in manufacturing and, ran a manufacturing company. And by far, two hardest things, besides finding people, the two hardest things that we always did, and you always assumed it was going to be better, and it never was starting up a new plant or starting up a new line. And so the loss and the pain and the lack of efficiency. So the ability to create these digital twins, you're basically using technology to plan it all out. You basically are running that line. You're simulating the production in real time.
Yeah. So the idea of digital twin, it's been relatively new, but basically I'm going to digitize, my factory floor, and I'm going to build a new assembly line so we can see it operating. But this new thought process is end-to-end product lifecycle. So you're going to create digitally, beginning to end, a new product concept from the beginning of the first version to all the way through the life cycle of the product, and before you ever put the first machine out on the floor. So it's not just, here's what the assembly line is going to look like, but it's the actual products, what they're going to look like, how you're going to develop them over time, and using AI that we'll talk about a little bit more. But it's just incredible that, and some companies out there and people may be hearing this saying like, we don't even have a digital twin yet, and they're already talking about a whole life cycle. It's incredible. And then, the other aspect part of that is this flexible product lines, Brett, which you may know about it from your history, but let's say the here and now is we have a manufacturing assembly line or a production line that we know, we can change out some components and kind of slightly change the end product. What they're talking about here is that flexible product lines, meaning I can go completely different type of product and using AI technology in this on the fly and change the whole product that you're doing, instead of just like, well, we're changing, the size of the product. One thing to do. So it's just kind of mind blowing.
The ability, what this technology is doing, for forever, all the way back to Henry Ford, who asked if you wanted your car, black or black.
Yeah. Have it any color you want as long as it's black.
But that mindset or that way of running plants, you didn't want to do changeover. You wanted to run the same product all the time because that was the most efficient, and because changeovers were hard. And now, literally, the ability to customize on the fly. Now, because, you can go online and order a product and you can customize it to what you want. And tomorrow, if you order it on Amazon, you'll have it.
Yeah.
And, type of thing. And so, that's all being done through this technology where these lines can adjust and adapt.
Yeah. It's interesting because it is the consumer that's driving it, because we have a whole generation of consumers that are just like you said. You go, you get exactly what you want when you want it. If you don't like it exactly, you seamlessly vote on it, number one, by giving it lower stars.
Yeah.
And then send it back, get something different. So that manufacturers are recognizing that they have to be that responsive. And, to be able to do that means, how do I maintain quality and efficiency? To your point, traditionally, it's like, well, the only way you do that is a repetitive process that we get really good at. Those days are gone, and it's going to be highly flexible, creative processes, but still maintain the highest level of quality and efficiency. That's a tough nut to crack.
No, it's key. I was in a plant earlier this week, and they're making fiberglass insulation. And so you line up the run, you're running a certain R factor. But with the newer automation of technology, they're not there yet, but they had a lot of really cool automation. It was a very well run plan, a very well processed. But they're still like, we run this R factor today, tomorrow we'll run that R factor. They're going to get to the point pretty soon where they can pretty much change it.
Yeah. So just a local example, we've got a local company here. Shout out to Baker's Candies, Nebraska, best chocolate you can get. Friend Todd Baker and family. So we get some of their chocolate and we put Skillwork branding, and they have all these flavors of chocolate. And I said, yeah, we really want that flavor. We need it for the show in 2 weeks or whatever. Well, we're not running that until 2 weeks beyond that. And, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll take something else. But those days are not going to be here long. It's going to be like, no, I'm the customer. I want that, and I need it today. And you got to be able to go like, not even push a button. I'm pushing a button. We're going to talk about next topic here. I'm just going to speak to it. So that's the next topic. We're talking about innovation. And one of the things that's really driving innovation is generative AI. Everybody knows what AI is out there. Hopefully everybody's heard of ChatGPT and things like that. The advent and the integration of AI in manufacturing is from last year's show to this year's show. It's like barely mentioned last year. It's kind of some future state. And now people are using it and integrating it. It's allowing the focus of a dwindling job force, as we mentioned, on the highest impact work. So if you think about ChatGPT, and we're not experts in AI, but we're having to learn some. But the whole idea is that there's these models and algorithms that are being developed that actually can create brand new things that, based on input, it still requires input and logic and historical precedent. But these models, highly advanced models and algorithms, are actually able to generate new content. I mean, it can generate everything from songs to poetry to now products, drawings, coding of software. So one of the quotes from the Smart Manufacturing Report said, over 50% more manufacturers year over year. So 50% increase are using machine learning and artificial intelligence compared to last year. It's phenomenal, some of these concepts that I heard about there and I saw.
Yeah. It's for about half of us, the whole AI thing, we don't know whether to be excited or scared to death,
Right.
kind of a thing. Because it's, there's a lot of fear in the unknown and how you're going to, manage it. You can get into all the, the ethical concerns, and those are all real. That's not something that we don't understand it well enough to speak, but we definitely know some folks. My son is a PhD in information sciences, so he's big data, and I know he's concerned about how they're going to manage, AI. So there's that side of it, for those people that are going, ooh, kind of a thing. But if you pull it back into the practical, again, kind of back to that manufacturing world where it is going to happen and is happening. I mean, it's not going to happen. It's happening. And it is a form of AI or machine learning. And that is the idea of transitioning very quickly from reactive maintenance to predictive maintenance. So it breaks, we fix it, versus, no, it's telling us it's going to break. That is, when you're looking at a manufacturing facility and run times and OEE and all your efficiencies, I mean, the number one issue is downtime. And so utilizing the technology so that, predictive maintenance becomes the natural language, kind of integration of the system. So now the system is talking. It tells you, I mean, literally this bearing is 2 degrees warmer than it was yesterday. That's a sign. I mean, you have no way of knowing for most of these plants still, there's no maintenance individual that's good enough to walk up there and put his hand on it.
Right.
Type of thing. But the technology is off the charts in what it can do. Most of the PLCs and that kind of thing, is a lot of ladder logic. We have a lot of automation folks that work for us. And, companies will ask, can they do some basic programming, basic ladder logic type of thing? And I think what you heard at the show, most of that, we're moving toward the place where generative AI is going to replace that, because you're just going to tell it
what you want it to do. Yeah, it's crazy. Some of the demos and discussions were like on the maintenance side, actually interrogating the equipment and having it respond back to you. Microsoft had their chief commercial officer was there, and he was talking about this. And he said, for example, Microsoft is going all in on AI. And you'd think, well, they're a computer company, right? But he was talking particularly in the manufacturing space. So Microsoft and Rockwell are big partners. They're doing a lot of this stuff together. So you take it with a little bit of grain of salt, but the core Microsoft company is already infusing AI, and he said every one of their products, and 25% of their software coding now is being done through generative AI. So he said the more difficult syntax kind of programming that's repetitive, that's all being done by AI. And the same thing with the controls technicians, the ladder logic. It's instead of somebody actually having to learn the language and interface with a keyboard to program it, somebody who knows what we want the line to do. And that's where the human value comes in, the creative ability to go, I really would like this to do that. And you actually engage a persona, and it can be a holographic image. It looks like a person, on a screen. You're saying like, hey, I'd like it to do this. I'd like to change over to that. And it programs it. And then in your virtual simulated world, it's like, can show you what it looks like, the digital manufacturing twin. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's where this stuff is headed.
You're right. I mean, you think about it, a couple of takeaways from that, what Tim just said. If you're a parent, or can't imagine that you're a high school kid listening to this podcast, but if you're a parent of a high schooler or whatnot, and you're debating right now whether you want to go to some type of trade school, and you're thinking about going to school to code, which used to be 10 years ago, we have a business partner in here. His son, super smart, was coding when he was 12, 13, went on, started a very successful company. He went to Stanford and all that. But today, those coders, you just said 25% of all coding is done by AI copilots with the Microsoft guys. So coding is something when you're looking and going, where is it going to impact? So you need to be looking more in the technician, some of the other more highly skilled things. I do think, and I'm not, predicting here, but you consistently hear that AI is going to be able to code better and faster.
Yep. It's already there, and he actually had this matrix, and he talked about types of jobs that were going to thrive, types of jobs that would be safe, types of jobs that are at risk. So if you think about up and to the right, meaning this is where they're going to thrive, jobs that require more social interaction and creativity. Social interaction and creativity. So if it requires, and back by creativity, you don't think of skilled trades as being creative, but troubleshooting.
Oh yeah.
It's all creative and the ability to think about what a line could do. So that's going to be bullish on the future there. If you do something that you can, set in your basement and work remote and set at a computer and do, that's kind of routine, like coding.
That's more at risk.
We're at risk.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So AI is a big deal. It's coming. One other thought on this, the idea of these personas. And I was thinking about this in manufacturing, Brett. So think about this. Microsoft now has created what they're calling copilots. And they're AI generated persona, not a real person, but looks like a real person, talks like a real person. They do it right now. You can invite them into a Teams meeting. You have 4 people, Tim, Brett, Sally, Carla, and Jose, or whatever, the AI generated persona. And rather than produce a bunch of PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets and come to prepare with all the data, you just interrogate the persona and go like, what were our trends last year? Oh, and where do you see this going in the next 6 months? Well, blah, blah, blah. You interact with it in real time, like somebody on your team. They're doing that now.
Yeah.
So think about that in the manufacturing space.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. But if you think about it, the idea, I don't know when Google started, but if you think about it, we're just going further with, what do we say? Ask Google.
Yeah.
Google it, type of thing to get an answer. Or we ask Siri. We're taking a big jump forward in what this can do. But this is actually machine thinking and learning.
Yeah.
Which is a little frightening, but at the same time, we've been asking these devices, to tell us stuff. But yeah, Siri, she's wrong about 50% of the time, but she doesn't even know what I'm saying. This technology. Now the question is going to be, somebody still has to hopefully go, is that right?
Well, that's one of the things we got into a discussion about ethics of the AI, and they said, okay, so far, generative AI, there's couple things it can't do or doesn't do well. One of them was it does not have a sense of humor. It's uniquely human to have.
Yep.
You go to ChatGPT and ask it to create a joke. Not very fun. So, and the other thing, this is the scary part. So far, they haven't figured out how to get it to forget. In other words, that's bad. That's bad input.
Yep.
You need to not use that input. So then they said, we need to be able to have a way to police the input. And I'm like, that means
who?
Yeah, who's policing the input and what gets taken out?
Yeah.
And you're right. The younger generation, they are totally comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild, man, and it's coming. So in the manufacturing space, you and I were troubleshooters, Brett and Tim. We can't figure out what's going on with this equipment. So we just bring the persona in the conversation. Hey, we've checked this, we checked that. What do you think? This is the result. We're getting flawed products, whatever. It's running hot. Well, have you considered doing this? You should try to do that. Why don't we adjust the code on the fly? And that's where it's going.
Yeah, that's where it's going, which in that context, that it's incredibly useful, because now go find Joe. He's been working on this machine for 20 years. He'll know. Well, now, Joe is this machine learning who doesn't forget.
And you don't have to bring out a big manual or search online. It's, yeah.
But it's helpful to that because somebody that, unfortunately, the created thing, it can't fix it. It can help you troubleshoot. It can say, check this, check that. Have you looked at this type of thing? It's kind of like, reading through the manual and going, the tips, type of thing. Only now you're getting it in real time and it actually knows your line.
Yeah. And it learned from what you've done previously on it. So incredible. So the other thing, couple of things that came out is the idea of, this isn't new, but it's really advancing, automated logistics and material handling. The idea that autonomous robots working side by side with humans to reduce the workforce challenges. This is an area, material handlers. So people that move, stuff around in your warehouse or load trucks.
Yep.
Absolutely in the near horizon. The Rockwell CTO, Cyril, I'm going to butcher his last name, Perdicott. I think he's definitely, I think he may be French, but he said in the not too distant future, there will be no humans involved in material handling. It'll all be done by autonomous robots. And I saw some demonstrations by a company that Rockwell had acquired. And it's just incredible to see the capability of these autonomous robots moving heavy pallets around, light pallets around, maneuvering around each other because there was a human interface involved with, I need to get these pallets of equipment over here. I need to get these tools to this worker. There's somebody kind of orchestrating, but then once you give them kind of the orders for the day or the orders for this whole run, they're just moving independently. They're not following even a line. They're moving independently. It's incredible. So,
But that's a good example, Tim, though, of when we say, on one hand, you can go, well, those positions are going to get eliminated, and there's something where the technology's there today. The warehouses are already big around there set up doing this for the most part now. But what it's creating is we work with companies now and talk to companies now who are realizing, okay, now because we're moving in this direction, we need a higher level of automation technicians because now you have all of this equipment that somebody's got to keep.
That's right.
Keep running. So the goal would be the individual guy or gal that's driving the forklift today, upskill them to be able to work on that piece of equipment. And now they've got arguably, a better job.
Yeah, exactly. I asked that question actually. I was like, what happens when it breaks?
Yeah.
Who fixes it? Well,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Somebody's got to be able to fix it to manage the system and make sure that everything is running correctly. Because when it doesn't, somebody's got to be able to think through, troubleshoot.
But I think too, and this is where I think a lot of people think that the tech people are just kind of blowing smoke a little bit when they say that it's not going to eliminate jobs. If you think about it, the real goal of that warehouse eliminating those individuals that are driving forklifts and doing all the other type thing. One, there's a safety element in all of that, but they're not really going to eliminate, because if you've got 10 people in the shipping department, now you just have 10 people in the maintenance department. But what has happened, you've traded those, you're paying actually a little more for these, but you're so much more efficient, and your safety record just went, way down, right? Because if you drop a pallet on that robot, okay. I mean, but nobody got killed.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's benefits to it, but you got to recognize that some of those roles you need to be, again, goes back to upskilling.
Yep.
Thinking about what you need to do in companies before they buy those neat pieces of equipment. They got to figure out, like, what are we going to do with the people? What are we going to do when it breaks? So that's what this growing is going to continue to be. So a couple other big themes that we'll hit on that we took out of there.
Yeah. And so
and we hear these too all the time.
We do, yeah. Yeah, one I like to talk about. The other one, I'm not as excited to talk about, but I'll brush over it. So two other things, coming out of the show. Obviously, we're doing a recap of the Rockwell show, so it's not, just a recap of what Brett and Tim think. But no doubt, one of the big things, and we even heard this last year. I did attend last year. I didn't make it out this year, but cybersecurity in this new technology. You think about it. You're now creating, these plants are operating in the cloud, all the equipment's connected, everything's talking. So cybersecurity is a big conversation and a big growth. And it's a part of the space that's competing for the same. You have this person coming through a 2-year trade school or whatever they're coming through. They're going to make a decision. Am I going cybersecurity, or am I going, automated manufacturing, or about half a dozen other options? So they're competing for that. But the cybersecurity, more data, more automation and smart systems, the threat, just kind of goes up exponentially. I think, Tim, you said there was literally as many vendors there addressing cyber at the Rockwell show as there was, manufacturers.
And that Rockwell report, State of Smart Manufacturing, also mentioned cybersecurity as the biggest threat.
Yep.
I would say the biggest opportunity or weakness is probably labor, but
yes,
because the threat is kind of coming external. But yeah, and you think about people that have worked in white collar or offices or the leaders of companies, cybersecurity is something you've thought about for the last 20 years because we work in email, we work in, we're on computers. You didn't think about that on your manufacturing floor. I mean, it's like that's because it was a self-contained system that was a very few interconnected system. That's changing.
Yep.
All this. So the threat to your company and the ability for ransomware and to be able to, I was talking around to people that were at some of these things and the numbers, and it goes unreported because it has to fly under the radar. The numbers of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that are flying out the door because of cybersecurity hacks and ransomware. It's incredible. So not only that, but spying, proprietary information, tapping into your network and figuring out what you're doing to create the next greatest thing, both domestically and international. Spying through cyber hack, that's a big deal.
Yep.
So that was the other one. And then I'll let you talk to the one that I know is near and dear to your heart.
So sustainability. So, a big topic continues to be, sustainability and ESG. And believe me, I have no issue with sustainability and keeping the water clean and all those kinds of things. The ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. So there's a lot of push. It's getting to the point where you just can't really ignore it anymore. They're going to score you, and they means, people that you're borrowing money from and a variety of other sources. And to some degree, it may be people that you're selling products to.
Absolutely.
Who say, what's your score. So there was, I think you said, over 95% of the respondents to the Rockwell paper noted that some level of sustainability or ESG policy over the last 2 years, weather foreman. So they're all, again, can't really ignore it. You can get into the whole debate on, which we won't, if, what's politically motivated and what's the drive behind of it. The idea of the environment and the clean, that's not really what this is about, but
it is. And it's like AI, you can debate, and we've had some great conversations about the ethics of it and the moral dilemma. That's one topic that needs to happen. There's also reality. And the reality is if you're not paying attention to ESG type things, sustainability, it's going to impact your business because customers consumers, other business you relate with, they are. You can debate whether it's necessary or what the impact is, but it's a reality. It got talked about a lot.
Yep.
So I felt like it was important for us to bring it up here.
It is. And I will say, I'll defend manufacturers and as a whole. We get out, we're in a lot of plants and augmenting maintenance teams. I just mentioned a little bit ago that I was in a plant earlier this week that was making fiberglass insulation, and the amount of stuff, I'll just say, or the amount of equipment stuff that was in that plant to keep the fiberglass out of the air in the plant and keep it from going out the stack into the thing. So the amount of effort, when I had my plant, I'm making millions of slices of cooked bacon a year. The first thing you should know is, what'd you do with all that grease? Because there's a lot of it. Well, I can guarantee you one thing. When our water left that plant, it was cleaner than what Carl is doing today coming out of your sink at home. And so companies, because you have to, if you want to continue to be a viable company. But I also think that most companies want to.
Yeah.
So I think people do the right thing, and
they do. And it's almost like, I'm an outdoors guy. I'm a hunter and fisherman. Probably the best environmentalists that take care and care for, put their money where their mouth is in terms of people have good intentions, think that they're bad.
Yeah.
Because they just don't understand. So,
yeah.
So it's a good topic. The bottom line from this and other things, and again, for those that are giving us your time and attention, we really appreciate it. It's us trying to stay in front of these trends so that we can help close the gap in the skilled trades and understand where things are going. So summary, manufacturers are leveraging technology, automation, AI to survive and thrive, and it's just exponentially growing. Workforce issues still remain the number one hindrance and risk. Our job, what we do, the role we fill, providing skilled workers, it's going to continue to be a problem. It's going to be an issue. Technology does not solve it all yet. Someday, maybe it will. Manufacturers more and more are viewing technology as an advantage for quality, agility, innovation, and the cool thing to attract the next generation of talent. Hey, come check us out. It's cool what we're doing here. It's not your father's trades. And manufacturers, they see it as a real big risk mitigation across a lot of different spectrums. So that's it. That's our takeaway from the Rockwell Show. Any final thoughts, Brett, before we wrap up this one?
No, like you said, I think the trends are pretty clear. Both, automation is growing exponentially, and continue right alongside that is the talent shortage gap. Because of that is just going to grow even more. And so I think it's challenging but fun space to be in.
It is fun. So we appreciate the time and attention. We'll continue to try to delve into some of these topics. Hopefully it's helpful for you. We really appreciate your time joining us here at the Skillwork Forum. Until next time, God bless.